we go. Dear. There you go. Me. Andrew.
Alright. Have you ever heard of a story so good it's used as a symbol of freedom and a symbol used to repress or fight against oppressive governments in other countries? Well, that is One Piece and its influentialness. I'll be talking about how influential One Piece is, not just in its home country, Japan, but all over the world. First, One Piece is influential in so many ways. Looking at the rebellions that were inspired by it to fight against oppressive governments. It's being used as Gen Z's symbol of hope. And you also look at its dominance over the manga industry during its prime and making it hard for even other stories to have success. And finally, also the other stories that is inspired and the authors who were inspired to write because they've read One Piece growing up. And to give a little backstory on One Piece. One Piece is a story about this group of pirates led by Monkey D. Luffy to fight, or to be the freest people in the world and to fight against an oppressive government that hides the true history from the people and takes away their freedoms based off what they believe is right. And Luffy combats that in his happy-go-lucky style, and he's always fighting for what he believes in because he wants to be the freest man in the world. First, its influence in the world. First, if you want to look at its influence in the world, you look to the rebellions that have started and use One Piece's Jolly Roger from the Straw Hats as its symbol for freedom and its dislike for its government being oppressive and taking away its rights. Just like how Luffy fought back against them, they use this symbol as their means to fight back against their government. And you look at the Philippines and Nepal and Indonesia and even the UK and France sometimes you've seen how they've hung this banner up as their symbol to tell the government no and to fight back. And you look at Gen Z, who wanted a relatable symbol for the youth and a symbol that fights with their cause, and that is what One Piece brings to them, and they've said. Second, you look at the Netflix adaptation that One Piece brought with the live action in America, and you look at how dominant it was when it first came out. Number one in 43 different countries, according to Netflix's stats, with over 18 million people watching it within the first few weeks of it coming out. And you see that it's not just dominant in Japan, but all over the world, being better than a lot of Netflix's more recent series as well. Second, dominance on the market. One Piece got a title called being part of the Big Three, meaning One Piece and two other stories were so dominant during 2000 to 2015 that it stifled manga sales for most other manga, reducing the total publication by 20%. And you look at had over 150 million manga sales in that 2015 mark, which boosted Ichiro Oda, and that contributed to Oda now being in the top 10 best-selling authors of all time in the world. Now he's reached 300 million sales total. And you look at it's still dominant at his 1.8 million active readers and 2 million people who bought the most recent manga sale, or the most recent manga, that being Volume 110. You can look at Shueisha, Shonen Jump, you can look at Japan Times, Natalie.mu, for all of those kind of stats. Second, or third, it inspires other authors and other stories. You look at Yuki Tabata, who wrote Black Clover, and how he took inspiration when writing Asta, the main character. How he's very similar to Luffy and is always happy-go-lucky, always fighting for what he believes, never gives up type of attitude. And Yuki Tabata in a Black Clover SBS which just means in the manga when he's answering questions. He said how he took inspiration from One Piece. Second is Hiro Mashima, who wrote Fairy Tail, who really took inspiration from One Piece and its friendship and its big themes, and wrote Fairy Tail with it. And you see that a lot, and he wrote that also in an SBS in his manga. And so, from One Piece, from its dominance all across the world, to its dominance just in Japan, to its manga sales, to its influence over Gen Z, and the rebellions that formed an inspiration of Luffy and his character. This just shows how dominant this and influential this series has become. So maybe next time you have a free few months, you can read or watch One Piece, because it does take a while to read with over 1,100 chapters. Thank you.